In December of 2015, the Miami Marlins hired Barry Bonds to be a hitting coach. On the surface, that seems like an incredible move. In 22 Major League seasons played, Bonds hit .298 with an OPS over 1,000. He made the All-Star team 14 times, won 8 Gold Glove awards, 12 Silver Slugger awards, won the batting title twice, the Baseball America Player of the Year 3 times, is a Home Run Derby winner, won the MVP award 7 times, has the record for most home runs in a single season, and the most career home runs ever. He's largely known as one of, if not the greatest and most feared hitters in baseball history. And yes, although his name does come with a lot of controversy, it's easy to see the position of a hitting coach being the perfect fit for Barry. I mean, what could go wrong? Well, Bonds only lasted a single year as the Marlins hitting coach, a time in which Bonds was said to be ineffective, a non-hard worker, someone who didn't pay attention during games, would sleep in the clubhouse, someone who the players and manager reportedly didn't even like, with his overall time being a quote-unquote complete disaster. So what exactly happened? Take a second to like this video, and if you're new to the channel and end up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button for future baseball content. It's really funny how baseball works sometimes. The best managers and coaches are typically guys you never knew in their playing days. Bonds was the complete opposite, someone who couldn't have been any better as a player, but that doesn't necessarily translate to a good coach.
You don't see the seams? That's a slider. He's throwing you a slider, and you've got Stanton saying, listen, it's 2 strikes. I'm bailing against a slider. I cannot lay off it. I can't lay off it, Barry. Barry says, don't swing at it. Right? That's how the conversation goes.
Apparently, Barry Bonds' time with the Marlins was bad before it even started. According to former Marlins president David Samson, Barry Bonds was the worst interview that he had ever been a part of. Bonds was allegedly a pain in the butt because of how much he knew he had the job. I mean, he's Barry frickin' Bonds after all, and he sure knows it. During the interview, Bonds fought hard and refused to accept any less money than $1.5 million, which is way more than the typical annual salary for any major league hitting coach. Samson claims to have never wanted to hire Barry Bonds, but had no choice as higher up in the organization Jeffrey Loria wanted the hire to happen. So they ended up hiring him for the job, with Bonds of course getting the money that he asked for. It got to the point where the Marlins reportedly paid most of Bonds' salary off the books because they wanted to hide it from all the other employees, putting it into his private holding company. In 2015, the Marlins had a young second baseman named Dee Gordon. Gordon wasn't necessarily a consistently great hitter or superstar, but he contributed big time to the Marlins that very year. In 2015, Gordon hit .333 with a .776 OPS, stealing 58 bases, which was just 6 less than he did the previous year with the Dodgers in 2014. 2016 started off normal for Gordon. That is until he was suspended 80 games after getting caught for PEDs. It was kind of ironic at the time since Barry Bonds was his hitting coach, and we all know Bonds' history with performance-enhancing drugs throughout his long career. There was an incident that David Samson remembers from the moment Bonds heard about Gordon being caught for PEDs, a moment that stood out to him more than the rest, where Bonds actually stormed out of the team facility after the news came out. This is what Samson had to say on the matter. Quote, Barry Bonds, in the middle of the clubhouse, he's standing toward the back door. He screams, "This is crap," and he walks out. I look at general manager Mike Hill and I say, are you kidding me? Like Barry Bonds just stormed out as though he can't believe one of the players did steroids? Is that really possible? End quote. Barry Bonds has always kind of had a reputation of being hard to work with while being arrogant, even during his playing days, and during the 2016 season basically made a public apology for being such, saying, quote, "It's on me. I'm to blame for the way I was portrayed because I was a dumbass. I was straight stupid, and I'll be the first to admit it. I mean, I was just flat out dumb. What could I say? I'm not going to try and justify the way I acted toward people. I was stupid. It wasn't an image that I invented on purpose. It actually escalated into that, and then I maintained it. You know what I mean? It was never something that I really ever wanted. No one wants to be treated like that because I was considered to be a terrible person. You'd have to be insane to want to be treated like that. That makes no sense." End quote. He went on to talk about how he could have so many more endorsements and good publicity in his life if he didn't do some of the things that he did, owning up to all of it. David Samson doesn't seem to think that Bonds stopped his arrogant ways when becoming the hitting coach for the Marlins, though. Samson mentioned how it was quote-unquote all about Barry since they had to do so many special things for him, such as what they did with the hotels, suites, food, etc. Samson also said that although Bonds did have some relationships with certain players that were decent, no one actually improved their game because of him. Now, of course, that's not an objective opinion, and you have to take that as you will. You then have Bonds' relationship with Marlins manager Don Mattingly, and let's just say it was not the best. Mattingly and Bonds never really got along, and it all started in April after Mattingly talked about how Bonds was still getting the hang of the coaching job. Mattingly tried to be polite about it, but it was clear that he was trying to say that Bonds wasn't really putting in the work that a hitting coach should be, saying, quote, "It just depends on how good you want to be as a coach. If you want to be a really good coach, you've got to do the work," end quote. Mattingly's disdain for Bonds and their overall rocky relationship never improved, actually getting to the point where Mattingly reportedly gave the Marlins an ultimatum, saying that it was either him or Barry. One of them was leaving. David Sampson has largely been the source of information for this video up until this point, and Sampson isn't a guy who says things that I would take every word seriously, so you can take everything he said about Bonds with a grain of salt. With that being said, I'm sure a lot of what he did say at least had some truth to it though, especially Barry Bonds' lack of work ethic as a coach, considering Don Mattingly also saw that in Bonds. Now, like I said before, Bonds didn't necessarily have terrible relationships with everyone on the team. In fact, former National League MVP Christian Yelich even talked about a drill that he learned from Bonds that changed his career. So he wasn't all that bad. But add up the other negative relationships he had with players, coaches, and ownership, and then add that up with his lack of effort, and he just wasn't meant to be a hitting coach, at least not at that time. To this day, Bonds is basically blackballed by baseball, and he hasn't found any other coaching job like he did with the Marlins. He still hasn't been voted into the Hall of Fame and is disliked by many for what he did while playing along with his reportedly arrogant persona. With that all being said, Bonds still does get lots of support from fans throughout baseball. He gets lots of love and is someone who many wish was voted into the Hall. So, from one of, if not the greatest and most feared hitters of all time, to a failed hitting coach that was hated by the Marlins, Barry Bonds still has a very controversial legacy that will unfortunately live on forever. Let me know what you think, and thank you for watching.